There are a lot of pyrokinetic superheroes in the Marvel Universe, but one of the OGs is often forgotten, and that is Firefist. Introduced in the first issue of X-Factor in 1985, this hero was almost never seen again in the recent comics until the release of Deadpool 2, where we see the character revamped. With Julian Dennison playing Rusty, the pyrokinetic hero has made his way into the mainstream again. Because of that, today we will be taking a deep dive into his powers and why he is the one who could face off against Cable several times and still live to tell the tale. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Who is Firefist and how does his mutant ability get activated? Let's backtrack a little and first learn about Rusty. Russell Collins, better known as Rusty, had a hard time as a child. He was the son of a sailor who died even before he was born. Before Rusty could even comprehend what the loss of a father meant, his mother passed away too. This led to Rusty being under the care of his uncle. His uncle could not care less about Rusty. Rusty was a high school dropout and worked at his uncle's hardware store until his uncle got tired of him and decided that Rusty was old enough to follow in his father's footsteps. And with that, Rusty went to the Navy when he was just 16. A few months after joining the Navy, while being docked at the San Diego Naval Yard, Rusty was forced by his peers to have a sexual encounter with a prostitute named Emma Laporte. Mind you, while this is happening, Rusty is barely 17. Understandably shy and awkward, he could not reciprocate her advances. But things get heated up literally because Rusty ended up manifesting his powers in the middle of kissing Emma. This left Emma with a lot of severe burns and Rusty fled the scene panicking. This led to Rusty being captured by his naval officers who knew Emma personally and got thrown into a jail cell with a straitjacket on. Officer Fisher wanted to kill Rusty, but when Rusty managed to free himself from his binds, thanks to his powers, Fisher decided to call the boys because he was sure Rusty was going to report him. Fisher called the X-Factor, thinking they would kill Rusty or at least get rid of him, but as the X-Factor were X-Men in disguise, they took Rusty in and his tutelage in mutant ways of living started from then on. He can shoot fireballs with his bare hands. While there are a lot of heroes in the Marvel Universe who could control fire as their manpower, no one quite does it like Rusty here. He is able to generate fireballs from his bare hands. He does not need an external source to make them, which makes the scene in Deadpool 2 quite interesting. In Deadpool 2, we see Rusty and Deadpool have a face-off. For context, Rusty has gone berserk at the Essex House of Mutant Rehabilitation where he was being abused. Deadpool, Colossus, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead showed up to stop Firefist, where we get to see the true extent of his powers. Even though at one moment Rusty is calm and his fists are not glowing, whenever he feels threatened, in a fraction of a second his palms glow red hot, and he shoots out fireballs, which are strong enough to push even Colossus back. The gap between Rusty and Colossus is definitely around 20 feet in the movie, so we can conclude that Rusty is able to shoot his fireballs up to 20 feet in whichever direction he wants after he creates them out of nowhere, which is quite the feat to achieve, especially for a teenager. How can he control heat? As we know, one of the most combustible gases in the air is oxygen. Rusty is a pyrokinetic based on that principle itself. His mutant ability allows him to heat up the oxygen in the air that surrounds him, turning it into a fireball which he then shoots at whoever dares to oppose him. This allows him the ability to manipulate the fire that he started. At first, Rusty could only control the air that was immediately around him, but as we follow this journey through the comic, we see that if he concentrates enough, he can cook food, which means he is able to control and combust the oxygen that is present far away from him. As he is combusting oxygen to generate the fire, manipulating the shape and size of the fire is something that is easily achievable for him. All of this can be done mentally by him, but sometimes we do see some physical gestures where he points the fire flames in a certain direction. The fire that he creates is strong enough to melt concrete, steel, and even stone. This ability to finally manipulate the flame allows him to ignite flames underwater as well. We also see him create walls of flame around him if necessary, but that leads us to wonder how Rusty is able to protect himself against all of this heat. The answer to that is that when he is using his powers, Rusty creates this psionic layer of energy around him. This psionic layer acts as a protective shield around him, which shields him from the flame and the heat only. Any other type of injury is able to injure him through the flames, of course. how powerful is Firefist in the future? The story that we follow in the movie Deadpool 2 is set on Earth 616, but as we watch the movie unfold, we see a future version of Rusty. This Rusty is from Earth 66250. This Rusty is a frenzied serial killer. In this timeline, after killing the headmaster, Rusty felt a certain joy in killing, which led him going down this path of murder. This led to him and Cable facing off several times. It is clear that the future Rusty is strong enough to face off against Cable and not die. They have faced off several times, and wanting to shake him off his tail, Rusty decides to pay Cable's family a visit and murders them in cold blood by setting their house on fire. This has led to Cable traveling through timelines and ending up on Earth 616 to kill our young Rusty. So with that timeline in mind, the whole nature versus nurture argument comes to mind, and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with how Rusty is given the proper guidance, albeit by the anti-hero Deadpool himself, we're hoping to see Rusty reach his full potential as a superhero in the next generation of Marvel movies to come. Can he reproduce? As far as Rusty's love life is concerned, there's not much detail about it. At first, Rusty's character was seen often in the comics, but soon he became obscure as Pyro took over his place as the pyrokinetic mutant. Because of this obscurity, there's not much known about Rusty's love life. Owing to that, we do not know if he has a kid or not. However, as there has been no mention that he cannot have kids because of his powers, we can assume that Rusty will definitely be able to father kids at some point if he does not burn his partner by panicking like he did with Emma. Is he immortal? While he has immense potential, that does not protect Rusty from the age of comic book tropes of killing off superheroes. Rusty is not immortal because we do see him die at one point. See, what happened was there was a fire in Manhattan. Freedom Force decided to catch the culprit as one does, but they decided the culprit was Rusty when in reality it was Mirage. This led to Rusty and the Freedom Force getting into fights. The X-Factor were in space, and according to a vision by Destiny, if Rusty went to them, a dark age would fall on all mutants. This led to Rusty and Freedom Factor going on a wild chase, and Rusty eventually got captured along with Skids. They were saved by the Mutant Liberation Front. However, the pretenses they gave Skids and Rusty were false. They effectively brainwashed them. Magneto finally arrived and got rid of their brainwashing and saved them again, becoming members of Acolytes. As members, they were on the Avalon ship when the ship came across an ice cocoon. Inside that ice cocoon was an Age of Apocalypse survivor, Holocaust. Holocaust came out of the ice cocoon thinking he was in his timeline and decided to go all out, and Rusty was, unfortunately, one of the victims of the Holocaust's rampage. Does he have resurrection ability? But as we know, nobody except Uncle Ben stays dead in the comics, so we see Rusty again. This time he is a brain-dead zombie. We see him in the Necrotia arc where Selene, an external, decided to use the transmode virus to resurrect a lot of dead mutants. This transmode virus turns once living organisms into inanimate technology with an uncontrollable urge to spread the virus to other life forms, so pretty much sci-fi zombies. After his demise, we see Rusty as a sci-fi zombie with his friend Boom Boom fighting other mutants under the control of Selene. Obviously, after Selene was defeated, he ceased to exist. But then he was resurrected again. This time he was not a sci-fi zombie, he was resurrected by the Five on Krakoa, the home nation for mutants on Earth, which finally lets us, the fans of Firefist, breathe easy. Marvelous verdict. As Firefist almost became obscure with how little he was seen in the comics, people who had a soft corner for this character were disheartened with the new, albeit different portrayal of Firefist in the MCU. The obscure hero has seemingly become more relevant, and with him still alive and well on Krakoa, fans are excited to see Rusty back on the scene in both comic and cinematic universe with renewed vigor. If you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.